Yo, what it do? I'm back and we're gonna talk about traumatized people. All right, let's get right into it. Hit that thumbs up button for me and subscribe if you ain't already. How you know if somebody traumatized? Okay, how do you know if you're traumatized? What kind of behavior would this look like, and why is this such a big deal for me to think enough of it to talk about it? Let's talk about it. So first of all, if you yourself are traumatized, it's gonna be a lot easier for you to start sabotaging, should I say self-sabotaging, the things that might actually benefit you. So if you're going throughout your life and you're taking all this time to pursue whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, whether it be people, places, things, status, different levels of comfort, right? You're chasing all these different levels of comfort. It's going to be a really real thing as you continue to go on your life on planet Earth, that at sometimes something's going to traumatize you. Everybody on planet Earth experiences trauma, 100% of us, okay? Now, the difference between people who are great and people who just get by, or maybe even people who are, should I say, behind in some ways, the difference is how we tolerate it, how we deal with it, and how we respond to it, right? All right, so check this out. You got people who might mistreat other people even though they genuinely have a care for them. So you might have an example in your life where it's somebody who, like, it's like, dang, I know that I got a special place in this person's heart, but it just seemed like they be mistreating me. Most people can relate to that happening at some point in their life. It's like, okay, why is that? Let's think about the psychology behind somebody who could feel some special way towards somebody, yet doesn't align their actions with the way that they feel, okay? This is a great example of somebody who's traumatized and who doesn't know how to process their emotions, okay? So if somebody is mistreating you, you most definitely should not take it personally, okay? So you got to think about this. You ever heard the saying, hurt people hurt people? So just let that sink in for a little bit if you never heard that before. But that's a very real thing. People who are hurt and who didn't heal properly, they have a serious problem with taking good care of themselves and others, because it's like a resonating thing that vibrates throughout their entire life. So let me give you a very specific example, right? Say somebody grew up in a life in which they were never able to trust their romantic partners. Maybe they only have had 2 or 3, right? But it just so happened the 2 that they chose treated them like dog shit, right? So it's like, dang, bro, you get 2 people who it seemed like they are the ones treating you crazy, but you also got to think about the fact that you attracted this person. So, you know, there's certain type of people. There's the people who attract these kind of people. They take responsibility for the people that they chose to bring into their life. And then they take care, knowing that going on, moving forward, they know not to take, okay, yeah, that's not the type of person I want. So let me make sure that I don't bring another one of the same type of person into my life again. Because a lot of people get stuck in cycles. And they'll bring in the same people. It'll be another, the same kind of person, but it's just a different person. So many people get stuck into those loops because they don't learn the lessons that are supposed to be learned. But say that happens a couple of times to somebody, right? That happened to them a couple of times. They might start blaming them. And all of a sudden it's like, dang, I done heard folks say stuff like, there's no good men in the world, or there's no good women. I can't find no good women, stuff like that. And it's like, bruh, it's you. I promise you it's you. Because all of this stuff is about how to attract what you want to attract, how to get it to materialize. But it's so easy to externalize everything and blame others, blame God, blame the government, blame men, blame women, blame your childhood traumatizer, if that's even a term. But whoever inflicted the trauma on you, that's what I'm trying to say. But it's super easy to experience all this stuff and don't take any responsibility for the fact that you chose to experience it. Because we got to think about this on multiple levels, right? If we know that, if you on this channel, of course, we talk metaphysics a lot. If you know that metaphysically, as a soul, you can experience whatever in the universe you choose to experience, right? And you just so happen to, in your life, you chose to experience something traumatic. So just think, you got yourself into it. That's the truth. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, whatever it was, your soul wanted to experience that. So it take a real bold person, it take a real mature individual to accept the fact and acknowledge the fact that I put myself here. I chose to come to planet Earth. I chose to be as a part of this family or experience that toxic relationship or whatever it is. You chose it. Now, you could play the blame game all you want, but I promise you it ain't gonna get you nowhere. I promise you it won't. So just be open-minded for a little bit. Maybe you should take advantage of the fact that you now are able to recognize that it's not only you who's supposed to do something differently, but you also have to make sure that the people who you attract naturally would be inclined to do different things. That's only going to come once you increase your standards and actually learn the lessons. How do you know if you learned the lessons, though? How do you know if you learned the lessons? All right, so say you in a relationship. I'm going to give this example of my real life, right? So I done attracted plenty of women in my life who I know for a fact love me so very much. Like, I'm talking about cared about me more than they care about any man ever in their life, okay? So not saying if that's a healthy thing or not. Hey, whatever. But even to the extent that they love me more than they love themselves, okay? So just thinking about that. If I'm looking at these women and I'm like, bro, why are these women self-sabotaging so much? And it's like, if we have a falling out or a disagreement or something, they start being all flighty and distancy, right? And all of a sudden, it's hard to even get in contact with them. It's hard to get them to reply. It's hard to get them to express themselves to me about how they're feeling and even communicate how they feel. This is an example of a traumatized person, okay? So I can't blame myself for why they are the way that they are, but I can definitely blame myself for attracting a traumatized person who didn't heal from their traumas. So that's the thing. You got to be willing to keep your balance and do both. Because if you spending your time playing a blame game, like I could say stuff like, oh, she's toxic, she's this, she's that, but that might be true. That person, they probably are toxic, shoot, but you might be too. So is it a thing for you to also acknowledge your toxic traits? And that's the part that's a little bit harder for people to do. People, it's so easy to talk trash about other people, but when you really, really grow up, you start recognizing the stuff you did wrong in that relationship too. Hopefully you mature enough to do it in the actual like present, but typically if you're in a toxic relationship and even if you do have the maturity level to acknowledge what you did wrong, the other person probably won't. But hey, if you're in a type of relationship where both of y'all are able and willing to acknowledge what you did wrong and apologize and actually grow and get better, y'all should probably stay together. Whether it's, like friends or colleagues or business partners or lovers, whatever it is. But if you're dealing with the type of person who don't acknowledge or who won't acknowledge what they did wrong and actually apply the resentment that they might feel for the bad choices that they made in the past, that's what I call an impossible person. So if they too busy blaming you all the time, externalizing it, they might blame you because they're traumatized. It's like, nah, nigga, you was traumatized before I even met you. So it's like, you got to know what type of people you can tolerate and actually like grow with, and what type of people it's like, nah, it's better if we keep this distance. And man, sometimes it can hurt because you might have the real deal chemistry there, but hey, chemistry only goes so far, because really all of this is about learning lessons. That's all life is really about, is learning all the lessons. So if you know you learn faster than somebody else, you got to be more patient with them, but don't let them slow you down so much to where you start basically losing your own mental health trying to hold together a relationship, because it takes two, right? It takes both people to actually put in the efforts to make sure that it works. And it's really easy for somebody who can see clearly to try to stoop down to a level in which they shouldn't be and start messing around and wasting their energy on somebody who keeps self-sabotaging, who will never even get any better, etc. So make sure you don't have that weakness, because that's a huge weakness, because kindness can definitely be a weakness. Now, if you're the type of person where it's like, all right, I know that I done attracted some toxic people in the past. They were traumatized before I met them. I've maybe even pointed out to them that they needed to improve on those things. Now, at this moment, when you think about the fact that you also have even tried to tell them about themselves, this is another way to acknowledge or recognize a traumatized person. If you could tell somebody about themselves or a problem that they got or a character flaw that they have or something they need to improve on, and they take it personally, oh, no, they too traumatized. They ain't ready to grow. So you got to have somebody in your life. You got to be the person also who's willing to receive constructive criticism, right? people have a hard time receiving criticism, and you got to be self-critical. If you really want to avoid other people talking about you in a bad way, make sure you got your shit together. Or at least look like it, right? Because ain't nobody really got their shit together. Everybody really just scrambling, trying to figure this junk out as we go. But everybody is pretending to have it all together. So just make sure you play the game really well and have it more together than most. That's all you really need to do. But this is how you have it together more than most. When you are emotionally aware, oh man, boy, you talk about some power, boy. You stepping into some power. When you are able to recognize problems within other people's psychology, and then you recognize if you can tolerate them, or if maybe, this ain't a good investment. She's not a good investment. He's not a good investment, etc. That's when you really start getting good at jumping. It's kind of like moving spaces in Monopoly. So it's like you could skip spaces and you could actually get places faster if you know which things are worth landing on and which things are worth investing into and stuff like that. But it's so hard to get to that point, boy, god dang. Because especially when you got those emotions for somebody and you really want to see somebody do well, but don't fall in love with somebody's potential, bro. Believe me, it don't work for nobody. It don't work for nobody. You got to accept people for who they are, recognize their potential for their growth, but you also got to recognize their motivation to grow. Because let me mention something, bro. I done heard so many people use this term self-mastery, right? People be talking like they want to actually master their own mind. Get the fuck out of here. Most people do not have the mental capacity to truly face their own demons. Nah, bruh. People just be using that term so loosely, and I really feel like it's blasphemy, low-key. Like, people just be saying stuff like, oh yeah, self-mastery, I want to be my best self and all that stuff. And it's like, but do you mean it? Because a lot of people's actions don't line up with that. Because if you really are trying to be your best self, you're going to acknowledge your traumas. You're going to recognize what the deeply rooted issues are that you got. Whether it be you didn't grow up with your daddy and you have daddy issues. Whether it's you got sexual trauma that you haven't acknowledged. Maybe a spider landed on you at some point and now you have a problem with other life forms. You know, whatever it was. You need to make sure that you face all of those fears, acknowledge those problems. Because they're gonna bleed into other parts of your life. I promise you, it's so deep. The psychology is so deep, bro. People's psychology is so much deeper than they could ever recognize. But if you really want to get good at getting what you desire out of life, you have to recognize what all is self-inflicted. And guess what? It's everything. Everything is self-inflicted. You might even hear me repeat some of the same things in some of these videos because of how important they are. But, bruh, that's one of the most important things to recognize is how to recognize your personal traumas and facing them and acknowledging them and ask yourself why you do the things that you do. What's your true motivation for why you're doing what you're doing? And are you doing something in anticipation of trying to avoid something? Or are you doing something as a reaction to something that happened? Because people a lot of the time are only trying to avoid things based on the fact that they experienced a trauma in that area in the past. I need you to stay with me. I need you to stay with me. This is so big of a deal. Like this video, I feel like is really important for people to recognize how big of a deal this is to really live a healthy life. Because mental health is everything. And really, you can get whatever you want out of life whenever you know how to think clearly about the plan to get it. But for whatever reason, it's a little difficult for people to keep a long-term investment in something, keep a long attention span. And it's hard for people to really choose to cut off the things that need to get cut off. Because that's like making executive decisions. And a lot of people would much rather be told what to do than to be the one stepping in the power position and taking control. But if you want to really get what you want to get out of life, you're going to have to take control. You're going to have to be the one doing the power moves. And it's going to take for you to cut some people off sometimes. You're going to have to fire some people. I really look at life like people are auditioning to stay in my life at all times. So it's kind of like I'm the director and I'm the one moving. I'm also an actor in this play, but I'm the one making sure that the script gets played out right when it comes to us playing this stuff out. I got to make sure that if somebody's not playing their role properly, I either make sure that I critique them and give them the adjustments, or I fire them and replace them, or just get rid of them and I fulfill it, whatever it is. But that's just an analogy, of course. But we really, I mean, quite literally also are just playing this out as if it's a play or a TV show or a video game or something. Because, you know, I mean, look around. This junk is way too chaotic for it to not be by design, right? Like, I don't know. There's always something going on. That's probably one of the truest sayings I ever heard. There's always something. Oh, yeah, for sure. That's true. But when it comes to the trauma thing, bro, you get what I'm saying. Peace!